Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy. I am coming to you from Columbia, Maryland. You can find me on Instagram as Knit, Knot, and Weave, and on Ravelry I am HiyaHiya with PHEELYA. I will have that all in the show notes below. Really has touched my heart that even though I'm only on my third podcast, I had a couple of inquiries as to where I've been and why haven't I podcasted lately. And basically it's because I've returned to work. As we all know, school started again in the fall. People want things to return to the way it was in the before times. And it's just not like that. Returning to school full-time has been hard on both teachers and students. We need to remember that although they might be 9th, 10th, 11th graders this year, they really have not been in school since they've been 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. So it's been an adjustment. It's been an adjustment for teachers and for students. And it's been rather draining. So I would come home after a full day and I was just too tired to podcast. I was even too tired to knit at certain points. I was just sort of in a funk. And I think for a little while there, I had slid into was sliding back into a depressive state because of everything going on. And it's just been hard, but I'm back. I'm hoping to do Vlogmas this year. We will see. But if you have any suggestions of what you would like to see, if I decide to attempt Vlogmas this year, put them in the comments below and I'll, see what I can do. So first let's talk about what I'm wearing. I don't know if I can stand up for you guys. My room that I record in is rather small, but it is my Rhinebeck sweater. Unfortunately, I did not really get to wear it at Rhinebeck because it was just too hot this year. I know, I'm going back a ways since I haven't been around much, but this is the Portage cardigan. You can see the back. I'll try and get better shots maybe at work or something. But it's the Portage cardigan by Melissa. And excuse my pronunciation of her last name, but it's Schwari, I think. I'm not quite sure, but I'll put it in the notes below. The yarn that I used is it's from the Knitting Boutique, and it's called the Susquehanna Dk, which is an 85% Polworth and 15% silk. This is the first time I've knit with Polworth, and I really like it. This yarn is very special to me. I had a friend pass away a number of years ago, and she was the knitting queen in our knitting group, and she was a very dear friend, and she had her own yarn store, and by that I mean she had a tremendously huge stash. When she passed, me and several of my friends helped her husband plan a huge yarn sale where we managed to sell almost all of her yarn off. But this one I snagged for myself. I bought it for myself. It was unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, when she bought it, she was an orange lover. She loved orange, she loved rust, she loved brown. This was like a rusty orange color, and it was not a color that would work for me. So I did like the yarn. I've never worked with Polworth before, so I was interested in it. So I took a yarn dyeing class. Actually, I'm sorry, not a yarn dyeing class, an over dyeing class at Neighborhood Fibers, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. And I over dyed this yarn to this beautiful red that still has some hues of orange, the orangey in it. And I just feel like every time I wear it, I get a lovely hug from my friend and niece, who hopefully is looking down on me from above and smiling. Well, now, like I said, I went to Rhinebeck. It had been a number of years since I've been up that way in New York, and it was a little bit more special to me this year. One, because, it's coming back from COVID. It was like the first real kind of returning to normal, even though it wasn't a normal Rhinebeck. The booths were more, I have to say, I enjoyed it. And I think from what I have heard from other podcasters that have talked about Rhinebeck already, they also enjoyed it. It was not as crowded. The New York Sheep and Wool Festival did limit the number of tickets they sold, and all the tickets were pre-sold. You couldn't buy a ticket at the gate. Now that may have changed, but that was what they had originally planned. And booths were a little further apart. So there'd be a booth, and then there'd be an empty space, and then there'd be a booth. So the barns and the different barns and the different buildings were not overly crowded because of that. I know in talking to some of the vendors, some of the larger vendors, that they weren't as pleased with it because they were only allowed to purchase one booth instead of, a double or a triple booth. But as a buyer, as someone who has dealt with the crowds of Rhinebeck, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have to say, with the number of vendors that I did speak to, although they were smaller, they were only allowed, the one booth, they did say they were doing well. So that was good. That was good to hear. This was also my first Rhinebeck since I have started watching knitting podcasts. So I was on the lookout for people who I had seen or people who I had watched. And I was super excited when I got to meet Kevin and Ray from Needles at the Ready. And I got to meet Caleb and Justin from the Bearded Pearl. And I managed to, because the Bearded Pearl had not put out a podcast in a while, but I did get to hear about what's been going on with Gus and the new kitten that they had, the new kitten that they were fostering. And it was really, really nice. All four of those guys were really pleasant to speak with. The people that the friends that I was at the fair with, were not big podcast watchers. So I didn't get to meet as many of the people as I had seen. I know that I had seen Brianna and Haley from the Woolies. They were with a group of friends, and they were walking by, and I had seen, actually, I think I saw Vanessa from the Nitty Witch. I'm not quite sure because I saw her from afar, but I'm pretty sure that was her. I did manage to see Lindsay from the Sock Witchery, although for the life of me, when I saw her, I could not remember her name. But I didn't go up to these people because, like I said, the friends that I was with, I think they were just sort of like, oh God, here she goes again. But I did get to see Amy from La Bien-Aimée, and she was wearing the cutest pin. I think oh God, my God, what was it? It was a COVID pin, but it was something like hugs. Nope. So, she was wearing her pin to let people know I'm here, but stay away. Unfortunately, I did not get to meet Crystal Glass. That was a disappointment to me because I had done the Ziggy Interrupted, which I will show you when I get to my finished projects. It was one of the projects I did manage to finish before Rhinebeck, but I did not get to attend her little meetup for it, and I was disappointed that I didn't get to do that. But what are you gonna do? It was a fun day. My girlfriends and I, we were a small group. It was the five of us. We rented a small house. It was in Poughkeepsie, about 30 minutes away from the fairgrounds. We left out early, and we got there early Saturday morning. And it was pleasant. It was a relaxing time. I think I did. I shouldn't say I think I did. I managed to get through the whole festival without purchasing a single skein of yarn. So I was able to go through, I walked through the whole festival, saw all the booths I wanted to see, took a look at all the different yarns I wanted to take a look at, and then I was able to go back and decide which ones I really wanted to purchase. And I think I think that was because it wasn't as crowded. I think when it's, for me, when it's overcrowded, I don't want to go back into something like that. So if I see it, I buy it, and then I run out of money, and then I see something that I really, really would have liked better than what I had already purchased. But this year I got to, it's a little more slow paced. I did miss out on the apple cider donuts though. My girlfriend did buy a dozen. She did buy a dozen, but I had just finished one of the pretzels and I was stuffed. I could not eat a donut, but I will have to think about remembering that for next year. So let me move on. I will move on to all the items that I finished the last couple of months. So the first one I'm going to talk about is just a simple pair of socks. These are actually my first pair of striped socks. This is yarn that has been in my stash for, I couldn't tell you how long. But these are yarn that I had purchased off of Etsy a number of years ago. It's Red Phoenix. It's their MCN base. 2 at a time, magic loop, toe up, rounded toe, shadow wrap heel. The heels, toes, and cuff were done in a solid black that I had in my stash. I don't remember what it was. These, because the yarn was a bit thinner, they were knit on a size 0. And yeah, so one pair of socks done. And then the next thing I want to share is the Vertices Unite. This was almost finished at my last podcast. I think the only thing that was needed to be done was the I-cord bind off. So this was done in conjunction with the Fiber Hustle make along for the Vertices Unite. And so let me see if I can remember what I used. So this was section 1 right here. And I used a, I can't remember. No, I do remember. This was, the multicolored was a dragonfly fiber. And it was a Maryland colorway, Maryland sheep and wool colorway a couple of years ago. And the dark purple is one of my dyed yarns. And then section 2 was hedgehog fibers, the multicolored one, and then the pink was one of my hand dyeds. And then I think this big turquoise section was section 3. That was also one of my hand dyeds. And then we did section 4, which is the hedgehog fiber. And then again, the purple, I know it looks black, but it is a very dark purple and pink, is my yarn. And then this is the Dragonfly colorway in Pixie. Pixie's their base, I'm sorry. Pixie is the base, but the colorway was a Maryland sheep and wool color. And then for the I-cord bind off, I did a triple color. I don't know if you could see it. I used all of the yarn that I dyed, and just, there we go, it's a little bit better further away. And I just, repeated the dark purple, the turquoise, the turquoisey teal, and then the pink. So that was my Vertices Unite, which I just love. I did make it a little bit bigger than my first 2. I think I lost track of my count when I was doing this first section, and I did more rows that were necessary, so that the thing as a whole just got bigger just because of that. So, but I love it. I love my Vertices. This is my 3rd, maybe my final. Who knows? Maybe not. Now, next up is my Ziggy Interrupted by Sandra Paul. And it was a knit along with Christy Glass. And I did use 29, actually I think I may have used a few extras, but it was made, her knit along was for a multi mini skein one, 29 different colors. And I knit I'm sorry, I crocheted. I did not knit this. I crocheted this. But I crocheted all of my squares together. So I would make one square. Actually, I made all the center circles, and then I would make the outer square. And then as I made the next one, I would attach it and crochet it together, just so I didn't have to crochet it at the end. I just felt like it helped me go faster. I don't know if it really did or not, but so, and then I would use, I followed her suggestion and used all those colors. And then I did the next group where I also intermixed some colors that were in the first group along with colors that were in this group. And then the center panel, I used colors from all 4 groups. I'm sorry, I'm covering my mouth. At the center panel, I used colors from all 4 sections. And then if you start at the other end, I did the same thing here. I started with the squares for this section. And then we used all these colors. I used all these colors. And then this section of motifs, I used some colors from the first section along with some colors from the second section so that it all tied together. And then I used a hot pink as a border for all of it. I know I still have not done the tassels, but for all intents and purposes, it has been put together. It has been blocked, and I just love it. It's a tad longer than my normal scarves, but you know, it can be a shawl at work, or it could be a double wrapped scarf. I love it. I love the different colors. It can be worn with a stunning black dress, and you know, it's the accent piece. It could be worn with a black turtleneck and jeans. But this was, this hair. But this was fun, and this really sort of reignited my love of crochet. Crochet was the first fiber habit that I had. I started crocheting, I think I said this in my first video, when I was 19, I really started to crochet. So, I'll take this off too. So like I said, that the Ziggy Interrupted sort of reignited my love of crochet. It was my first real fiber addiction, and I went stash diving. One of my New Year's resolutions this year was really try to knit more from my stash. So like I said, this was from my stash because a niece had passed away a number of years ago. All of these were from my stash, except for the colors that I dyed, but the bare yarn was in my stash. And then all of these were different minis that I had in my stash. Some were ones that I had used to sort of soak up yarn not soak up yarn. Some of the colors that I used in here were mini skeins that I used to soak up any dye that was left in dye pans from yarns that I had dyed. So the next one was another deep stash dive. A number of years ago, a good number of years ago, Malabrigo had put out some test yarn. It was called DOS, D-O-S. And I don't know if they've ever put it on the market, but it was a merino. It was not a superwash, but it was very, very soft. So I was kind of surprised that I'd never seen it in the stores or seen it online as a color. But this is not that is not the color at all. This is way more pinky red. It's showing up way more pinky. But anyway, so this was a scarf that I had started. This is my own pattern. I just sort of cast it on and decided this was a stitch. Let me see if I can find words. So this bottom stitch here was a stitch that I had from memory. It must have been something my Nana taught me, because I don't know where I would have seen something like this before, but this is a whole stitch right here. And then I did some shells, because I had two different colors. I had 3 skeins of this, which is much more blown out. 3 skeins of this color, and I had 2 skeins of this multicolored. So this strip here was 1 skein, and I think it's because that particular stitch just eats up so much yarn. So that was 1 skein. And then I used a skein of the multicolor to do the fans. And then I used another skein of the solid to do these sort of, I have to remember to stop covering my mouth. I used the 3rd skein to make this sort of like, I don't know what it's called, crosshatch, checkerboard style. And then I went back to the multicolor to do the fans, and then back to the solid to do the last strip. I am planning on possibly writing this up, but it was just sort of, I cast it on. I don't even know how many, I don't even know, do you call it casting on in crochet? I don't know. But I did. I just made a long chain. I don't know how many stitches I chained up, or I don't know how I figured it out, but somehow I figured it out. The edges are not as straight because the stitches, this weave stitching sort of pulled it in a little, and then the shells and this other stitch pulled it out. But of course it could also be that I sort of finagled some stitches when it didn't work out evenly, because like I said, I didn't have a particular idea in mind. I just sort of went with it. But I'm thinking this might be a Christmas gift for somebody in my family. I'm sorry, this might be a Christmas gift for somebody in my family. Then I started in on a couple of hats, and I got into a somewhat of a knitting funk, somewhat of a, slid into a slight relapse of depression. And I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the brain power. I needed things that were quick and easy. So I went into hat mode. And this was something I just sort of threw together. I cast it on, I don't know, probably 88 stitches. And I did a 2x2 rib. And then I changed it into a 6x2 rib. I held, what was this? This was leftover dragonfly fiber pixie in, I think it was a cognac color base, which is a stunning base color. And I don't think they make that color anymore. And then I held it together with a skein of mohair from Miss Babs, which was one of her sheep and wool colors from this year. So that was one hat. And then I did another deep stash dive, and I pulled out, oh, what was this yarn? Knit Picks Capretta. And I did Vanilla Fog, which is by Andrea Mowry. And the colorways were black, cream, and I think the grayish was caviar. And so I held the cream throughout. And then I did a big fluffy pom-pom at the top, which is a little wobbly. And then another deep stash dive. I have a love for hand spun yarn, but I do not spin myself yet. Did I really just say yet? I don't need another hobby. But this was a yarn that I had purchased on Etsy. It's Spinning Wheel Studio yarn. The colorway is Waste Not, Want Not. And I think it was just on a multitude of different fibers that she probably had. Somewhere in here, there's a little bit of stellina, but it's all pretty much merino. And I just, I did a simple cast on, probably 88 stitches, which is usually the size I use for my hats. Knit 2x2 rib for about 1 inch, and then just did regular stockinette all the way up. And I have actually worn this one a lot this winter. One of the things I did do while I was in my funk is, of course, I continued to watch my podcasts and follow my people on Instagram. And Maddie and Christy from We Share Needles did their Musselburgh cowl. And so I jumped on that bandwagon, and right before Halloween, I pulled out some Halloween yarn that I had in my stash. This is the mussel hat. There's so many different ways of people fighting over how to properly say it. I'm just going to call it the mussel hat. But it's by Ysolda Teague. I want to say, I think it's Musselburgh. But anyway, this yarn is Highland homemade maple sugar, or Highland handmade sugar maple. Anyway, the colorway is Trickster. It's a wool. I don't think it said which wool it was. But what I found interesting with this is you could see that it was kind of a stripy, and it didn't really pull, but I guess eventually, if you pull it out, eventually it will line up. I guess going round and round in circles, eventually it lines up and then it starts to pull. So here you could see it was all stripy. And then here it started a little bit of pooling. And then I don't know what happened here. It got like funky again. And then we started with the pooling. And then here is where the decreases started. So it got a little funky again. But so it's always interesting to see how when you knit in the round and you knit long enough that eventually, I guess, pooling just happens. I don't know how or why, but I guess eventually the stars align correctly and you get pooling. So that was one. And then, of course, because I don't think anybody can just knit one Musselburgh hat, I immediately cast on another one. And this is a gorgeous, gorgeous red. Another deep stash dive. This yarn is, the dyer is called Politically Incorrect Yarns, and I don't think she's dyeing anymore. This was her MCN base, and this colorway was called Cougar. But a lovely, lovely hat. Love this pattern. I do have one more on the needles, which we'll get to. And I have plans for another one as well that I'm trying to do. I've started a scrappy one because I saw that on, oh gosh, 72 Stitches on Instagram. Is it Knit All That Yarn, I think is her podcast. I'll put it all in the show notes below. But I liked her scrappy one. So I'm starting a scrappy one, and then I have an idea in my head for another one. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, my next project is actually not my finished object. It is a friend's finished object that I managed to talk her into giving to me. My friend Ellen does not think of herself as a prolific knitter, and she always finds it surprising that I want something that she's knit, because she's like, you could knit. I'm like, it's not the point. The point is not that I can knit. The point is that you knit this for me. So I loved the colors. I loved it as she was knitting it. I don't know what it is about these colors that attracted me, but anyway, I managed to talk her into giving it to me, and I gave her one of my Malabrigo Rasta yarns in exchange because she needed to knit hats for Christmas. So I love it. Ellen, I love it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Finally, you understand, I hope. Anyway, so moving on to whips. So this is my MLD Threads project bag. I'm a huge lover of Carnival in Venice. One day I hope to get there for Carnival and see all the lovely, lovely costumes. But this is the crossback sweater by Chantel Miyagishima. I know I butchered that, but it's not much to see. But it's a sweater for my niece. The yarn her mom actually brought back to me from Italy a number of years ago, and we've been trying to find a pattern for it that she would like. So here it is. So it's the crossback sweater. My niece picked it out, and I'm thinking up here I might put some I-cord so that she could tie it and keep it from maybe sliding off of her shoulders if she wants to. But this is the back. It's an Italian yarn. It's called Canada, which I find hysterical. Titan wool. And the yarn shop that my sister and mom went into was actually going out of business, which is what prompted her to buy the yarn. And she knew that my niece Gabriella wanted me to make her a blue sweater. And so she saw this color. She knew it was a color that Gabriella would like. So she asked me about it, and she had, I think we used WhatsApp because she was, WhatsApp because she was in Italy. And I wasn't even thinking of the exchange because I knew the pattern that my niece originally wanted, we needed a sport weight yarn for. And so when she told me that this called for size 6-7 needles, I wasn't even thinking of 6 to 7 millimeter needles. I was thinking 6 to 7 US needles, which is a sport DK weight. So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And then of course, when it got here, I was like, uh-oh, they meant 6 to 7 millimeters, which is more of an Aran weight. So we had to do a quick shift, and we found another pattern that she liked, and hopefully this will get done by Christmas, but who knows? She knows. She's had a couple of sweaters from me. She knows that not everything gets done in a timely fashion. I am using my LYKKE needles, LYKKE. Not quite sure how to pronounce that, but these are US 10s. And so that's one. So let me actually, before I put this back, let me put a project keeper here so I know where I am for the next one. So yes, I'm a skull and crossbones kind of girl. What can I say? So this is my little Nitty Witch project bag. This is one I sewed myself. And it does have skeletons inside. Unfortunately, it's not the fornicating skeletons that Naughty Knitting Sacks does. But this is my other muscle burrow that I'm knitting up. It is a Brooks Farms yarn, which I got at Maryland Sheep and Wool a number of years ago. Again, Brooks Farm has gone out of business. They are no longer dyeing. It is an alpaca-based yarn, alpaca and something. Do I have the band in here? Of course not. Of course I don't have the band in here. But it's called Trio, I think. I'll put it in the show notes below. But you can see that it's striping up this way. This is more of a DK weight yarn. So this is my first thicker muscle burr. So we'll see how different it is when it's all done. But it's got it's got a nice twist to it. I don't know if you can really see it. It's got a nice tight twist to the yarn, and the variegation is in the yarn itself is very subtle. But you can see it's kind of striping up really nicely with a light blue, a teal, and a little bit of a purple there. But a nice tight stitch, nice stitch definition. I've got a couple more skeins of this in my stash that will be very nice to knit with. And then these are just size 6 Knitter's Pride needles on a 16-inch. Nothing major. I did leave the stitch markers in for where I'll have to start the decreases for when I get to that end. Hopefully you may see some of these projects again as if I decide to do Vlogmas. But I put in my little crab progress keeper because, you know, Maryland are known for crabs, and you can't live in Maryland and not have a crab stitch marker or crab's progress keeper or a crab door knocker or, you know, Old Bay somewhere in your house. So this is living in another one of bags that I've sewed. I used to sell bags on Etsy. And Alice in Wonderland, who was the dyer? Oh, Fresh from the Cauldron in Florida. She was getting ready to do an Alice in Wonderland club, and I made some bags to sell in her group in conjunction with her club. And so this is a hat that I have in it. This is one of my hat patterns. I had it all written up and ready to be test knitted, but I can't find it. I found the chart. I found the chart for the braid, and I found the chart for the pattern on the side in my files, but I can't find the write-up. I don't know what I did with it. So I couldn't remember how many I casted on, and I can't remember how I did the decreases because I did the decreases in a way that didn't affect the braid too much. So now I'm trying to recreate it, which I'm a little annoyed with myself that I've lost the pattern. But anyway, I don't remember what this yarn is. I'm sure it's in my show notes on Ravelry. On my project page on Ravelry. So it will be there, and it'll probably be in the show notes below. And then this is the rest of the Miss Babs Moon Glow, the Miss Babs Mohair, which is the show colorway from this year, from the Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is the same mohair that I used in this hat pattern. And these are on my Addi squares, my Addi Rocket squares. You can see that they have little divots in them. They are square, and they have little divots in them. I bought them when I was having my issue with trigger finger, and it was really bothering me to knit. So I was hoping that maybe square needles that had a little grooves to them would help me. It didn't. I still wind up having to get the cortisone shot, but it's all better now. Hopefully it'll never happen again because I don't want another surgery on my list. And then I have this cute, what is called a stitch stopper. You slide it on. You don't slide it on. It's a very specific way. But it stops your stitches from sliding off the needles. And these you can get at Nitty by Nature shop. You can see I bought a couple of them. I think they're neat. But they go over your cords. They don't go over the needles. You don't pull them apart because they're plastic. They're hard plastic. So if you pull them apart, it's going to break. But what you do is you just slide them out. So you take your cord and you just slide it in. You take your cord and of course, and you slide it in, and then it prevents your stitches from coming off. So hopefully I will have this hat pattern written up again, and I'll post it on Ravelry and I'll let you guys know. And for those of you that don't do Ravelry or can't do Ravelry because of the issues with what they change, I can speak tonight. For those of you that cannot do Ravelry because of the changes they made, what is the best way? Maybe I'll put them on my Etsy shop. Or maybe I'll do Dropbox. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, I will find a different way for you guys to purchase the pattern for those of you that can't access Ravelry or have decided to no longer access Ravelry. So the last whip I'm going to share with you tonight is housed in my Fat Squirrel project bag. Mushroom butts. Mushroom butts, mushroom butts, mushroom butts, mushroom butts. I know, I just love saying that. I was so happy I managed to get in on her update for this one. I wish I had gotten the bigger bag, but I think it was sold out by the time I got to it. Anyway, this is a test knit that I'm doing for a friend. And I'm using my own hand dyed. I dyed this yarn many moons ago when I first started playing around with mixing colors. And I almost gave it away, but I decided, I had 2 skeins of it and I decided to keep it. I was going to do something with it. And then I asked, or I offered to test knit this pattern for a friend of mine, Patrick. And I needed, it was a brioche pattern. I've done brioche before. I love the shawl, so I'm looking forward to finishing it, but I needed a color. I really wanted to use this. I finally decided I really wanted to use this, but I didn't know what color to put with it. So I brought the yarn with me on our knitting retreat, which we had back in October, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And I asked some friends there, like, what color. We were trying to match colors. We were trying to figure out a color that would go with this. And somebody was wearing a very pale pink sweater that they had knit with. And we thought that might have gone. And then we had an indie dyer actually come and do a trunk show at our place. And she had something that was a little peachy, but it was in the wrong weight for me. So I came home and I started playing with my pinks and my peaches. Well, my pinks and my oranges and my peaches, and came up with this. And I think it worked out beautifully. These are 2 different skeins. I just have them wrapped together as one. And so this is a test knit. Like I said, it is brioche. Again, I have another one of my little grippy things, and this one's a little kitty. These are on HiyaHiya needles. But this is what is called Syncopated Brioche. Now, I think if I had read that term before I had offered to test knit, I probably would have not offered to test knit because I had no idea what Syncopated Brioche was. But it turns out I had done it before. I just didn't realize that was the name of it. So syncopated basically means that you're knitting, that different colors will show on one side instead, and it'll be reversed, just like regular brioche, but you would see both on one side, and then when you flip it over, it would just be reversed. So this is as far as I've gotten so far. I need to get through 2 skeins, one of each color, by December, just to make sure that we have, like I wrote the pattern, just to make sure that Patrick has the right amount of yardage for his shawl. So this was fun. I'm enjoying it. This was the first brioche pattern I've done that had decreases and increases in it, so that was fun to learn. Most of my brioche has been just knitting around. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I did do a brioche shawl where I had to learn how to do increases and decreases, but not to the extent where I had to do like the chevron style. So one other working project I am going to touch on. In my last episode, I had shown you guys 2 projects that I had warped up on my loom. And one project used this skein from Miss Babs, which was, again, a Maryland sheep and wool colorway a couple of years ago. But I didn't know, this is going to be the warp. So this is the yarn that goes up and down in a scarf. And it's almost 16 inches across. So I'm hoping for it to be more of a shawly or an oversized scarf. But I couldn't figure out what color to do. I was thinking of this pink, and then I was thinking of this turquoisey teal there, and I think I had put it up. Actually, I think I had asked a bunch of my friends. I had shared the skein, or maybe I put it up on Instagram. I can't even remember now. But anyway, most people voted to try and match that tealy color. And so I had a skein of slubby yarn, and I decided to go for the teal colorway. And here it is. It's coming out a little bit, it's coming out brighter on camera, but I think it's going to work. And I thought these little slubs were neat because they could probably poke out through the weaving and really give it some good pops of color. So I'm looking forward to getting back to this and getting this on a shuttle and finishing up this scarf. So now we get to move on to stash enhancement. As we know, as knitters, as crocheters, we have acronyms that I don't know where they came from, but you know, WHIPs, FOs, HOs, SABLE, Stash Acquisitions Beyond Life Expectancy, which I think I'm pretty close to. And then of course there's SEX, Stash Enhancing Expeditions. So that's what we're going to move on. So moving on to stash enhancement. I'm going to start with some stash enhancement purchases that were made back in October. I had purchased 2 Halloween advents. One was from Trilogy Yarns, which I'm very, very upset that I missed last year's Hocus Pocus advent, because that's like one of my favorite Halloween movies. But this year she did Practical Magic, which is, again, another one of my favorite movies. But so I did get it this year. And it came in this project bag. I can't remember the name of the project bag. Who made the project bag? Oh no. Okay, well, I'm going to show you the yarn first. And I couldn't figure out the best way to do this. So here it is. There are 14 different minis up here, all 20 grams. And then this is a full skein. And I love them. I haven't decided what I'm doing with them yet. And then the project bag was part of the advent. Stitching the High Notes. So that's who made these project bags for Trilogy Yarns. I love the little raven. So that was my advent from Trilogy Yarns. My next advent came from a dyer that I did not know. I tend to do this every now and again. I like to purchase from new dyers or people who are just starting out on Etsy. And I'm hoping that when I finally get my yarn up on Etsy that someone will do that for me. So this is from Tippy Tree Yarns. It was an Etsy purchase. It was her Grimm's Halloween Countdown box. It was 31 minis. Plus some other things. The first thing that I got to open was this little bag. Of course, it says Happy Halloween. And inside the pouch, which, you know, you couldn't have bought a more perfect gift for a librarian or a media specialist. but the Grimm's Magnetic Poetry. And I actually have two metal sheets in my media center with magnetic poetry pieces for the kids to play with. And every now and again, I will, actually every day we have to take a look at the metal boards to see what the kids have done, because sometimes they are very creative. Other times they are very crass. So if there's anything crassy on there, we need to get rid of it before, an admin comes through, or before another student takes a picture of it and puts it up on the internet. But if they make something creative, I always take a picture and post it on my, not my Instagram account, but my school's Instagram account. So another thing that came in this box were these stitch markers. All Halloween-y. She also, in some of the bags, there was lots of teas, which unfortunately are all gone because, from October to now, I drink a lot of tea at night. Hence, I love my pottery mugs. I don't know what it is, but I love my pottery mugs. This one was purchased on a vacation in the Georgia Hills. I can't look and see who the dyer was. Listen to me. I don't know who the potter was because it's on the bottom of the mug and I have tea in it. But here are all the beautiful minis. 31 lovely, lovely colors. If anybody has an idea for what to make with some of these minis, post it in the comments section, because I would love to use all of these in one go. So each mini is 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 20 grams, 92 yards. A beautiful purple. Ooh. Don't ask me how much that was. 92 yards times 30. I am not the mathematician. You figure it out. But if you have an idea for what I could do with that much mini yarn, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to use that. So again, that was Tippy Tree Yarns, and they are on Etsy. I will put a link to their shop down below in the description box. Another acquisition that I have is some hand spun yarn that I found on Ravelry. That I found on Etsy. I swear this is only tea in here. That's it. But these were some hand spun yarns I found on Etsy that I am hoping to possibly use in some weaving. So the spinner, or the shop, was called Gargoyle Lover. It's by Linda Carroll Masters. And they're all called art yarns. And this one is Harvest Moon. I thought they could be used to in some weaving, and maybe just put like a little pop of color or a little bit of bling in a scarf or a shawl. This one is called Hocus Pocus. I probably bought this one strictly for the name because that is my favorite movie. But I do like the colors in here. And this one is Angel Fire. This is looking way more brighter on camera. Is that a little bit better? No. That's a little bit better. And this one is Traffic Jam. The story of my life on the way to work. And then the last one is called October. So they each have a little bit of bling. Now this one, the Stellina, is like an orangey color. You can see it with, and then it's got these little what the heck are those called? Little sequences in here. So I thought that one was really neat. There's also another hand spinner I tend to purchase from on Etsy. I don't know how many skeins I've purchased from her, but this one I kept to my sort of trying out not new yarns, but new wools. So I saw this one on her shop and I had to get it. And I haven't officially opened it yet, so I have no idea what it really looks like. But it is hand-painted Jacob wool. And just look at the presentation. Isn't that cute with little dragonfly tissue paper? And then, of course, yummy, yummy, yummy Bigelow yarns. Bigelow tea. There's cranberry apple, which I love. It's my favorite. And this one I have not tried before, but it's called Sweet Dreams. Bigelow Sweet Dreams, relaxing blend of comforting chamomile and soothing mint. And I do love chamomile. So I'm excited to see what this one looks like. So again, this is hand-painted Jacob wool. It's a worsted weight. Aww. And a lovely sack of lavender inside of it. I love lavender sacks. It is 260 yards. And it is gorgeous. Stunning. It's called Summer Berries. It's Jacob's wool. It's 4.2 ounces and 260 yards. And look at those colors. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't wait to use it. But do I knit with it or do I weave with it? So pretty. So pretty. So again, that was Edgewood Garden Studios, and she's on Etsy, and I'll link her down below. Now, my next two purchases are also a dyer who is new to me, but I've seen her, I've actually seen some of her podcasts, and I finally got around to trying her. Mace of Skeins. This is a DK weight. It's a 75 superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. And I think these are going to be a pair of DK weight socks for me. I just love this colorway. It's called Dragon Scales. Certainly my colorway. And then the other one I purchased is her mohair, Royal Flush. And it's called Vintage Witch, which I just love. Purple. I don't know what it is about purples and greens, but it's definitely speaks to me. So I'm super excited that I got these. And she sends you a little card with her little logo, on it. And inside, yay, I got a Mace of Skeins sticker for my water bottle. I love these things. So I'm super excited. I think this one might be held together with black. And I don't know. Maybe a cowl, maybe a hat. What do you guys think? Okay, so next up are my Rhinebeck purchases. And my very first purchase, which I was super, super excited to get, because I can almost never get her online because she just sells out so fast. And it just happened to be one of the last booths we visited, so I was able to purchase it. And it is Lola Bean. The colorway is called, what's the colorway called? The Vineyard. It's a DK weight, 100% superwash wool, superwash merino. and I bought a sweater's worth. So this is going to be a sweater. So after I made the purchase of the Lola Bean yarn, since that was the last barn we went through for the whole festival, I really wanted to go back to Into the World. Now, 2 of my friends that were on the trip had purchased a skein of Into the World in a stunning colorway. And that's what I planned to go back and get. I was thinking of getting, you know, maybe maybe 2 skeins of that colorway and make, I don't know what yet, but I knew it wasn't going to be socks because it was just too pretty of a colorway. And I walked out with 5 skeins, none of which were the color I wanted to go get. So here we have 3 skeins of their sock yarn, which is their, oh my God, I can't even know if I could say that. Pakaku sock, which is 460 yards, is 75/25 superwash merino nylon. This is their colorway Ramble. This is their colorway Mirapox. And then this one is Genie. So this will be some sort of a 3-colored shawl at some point in my life. And then these 2 are their Saratoga Sport Weight base. This was actually the Rhinebeck show color, which I think is just beautiful. And I really wanted to weave with it. So I got their 221B colorway, which I think probably the name really took me because I'm a huge Sherlock fan. And I thought those would weave up nicely together. So I'm looking forward to getting one or both of the other shawls, scarves off my loom so I can get these on the loom. Then after Rhinebeck, I made the mistake of watching Needles at the Ready Live, where they shared all of their stash enhancing expedition acquisitions from Rhinebeck. So I'm going to call this part the Needles at the Ready Made Me Do It. I fell in love with all of their woolens and nosh colorways. Actually, I fell in love with one. This is the one. This was, fall is my favorite. So I had to get it. And unfortunately, I got it in 2 bases. This is in a DK base, which I was thinking would make a really neat hat. And then, of course, I had to get it in the sock base. And I got the purple to go with it to do coordinating heels, toes, and cuffs. And this is their Tarhi base. So it's 90% superwash Tarhi and 10% nylon. And then I purchased one other sock set from them, which is Winter Mint with a dark green colorway to go with it. And these will hopefully be Christmas socks. Maybe Christmas sock 2022, because I don't think they're going to get done by 2021. And then after, I was about to say Maryland Sheep and Wool. After Rhinebeck, New York Sheep and Wool, we had our knitting retreat. Our Columbia Sip and Knit is the group that I organize, and we have an annual fall retreat. So at the end of October, we had our fall retreat, and we got our goodie bags, which this year we went with a canvas bag with our logo. Everybody loved them. And then inside the bag, I'll share all the goodies we purchased for everybody. So one of the items that was in the bag was purchased by someone who is one of my, is on the committee to help me organize the retreat. And she found these cute little Notion bags. And she found these little needle cap stoppers. So she bought a set of small and a set of large that go in the bag. Went into the little notions bag, and then they went into the project bag for the retreat. We found these little scissors because, you know, you can always use an extra pair of scissors. And then we have one member who grows her own lavender. And so every year she makes us these lovely lavender sachets. So those always go in the pouch. And then she also made everybody a mask this year. She tie-dyed masks, which I love. So everybody got a mask in their bag. And then we found, or I found, these stitch wires. I know they were the big rage on some of the podcasters, but I found these on Hobby, Hobbii. And I gave, each bag got a set for large needles and a set for small needles. And they are, ooh, it doesn't say. I want to say it's something like 16 yards on each of these or something like that. 16 feet maybe. They all got a Halloween candy because, you know, it was Halloween. And then we got them some stitch markers. And then everybody got a skein of yarn that was dyed by me. So they will be my first people to test knit with my hand-dyed yarn before I get it up on Etsy. And while we were at the retreat, we had some yarny adventures. I will put some clips in here where we had one member, Lori, had purchased a sock blank that was a double knit sock blank, and we needed to skein it up for her, except she started to unravel it at the wrong end, and then we switched it to the right end, and unraveling, like she was trying to unravel them and skein them up into cakes so that she had a cake for each thing. But I think these double knit sock blanks, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I've not knit from a sock blank yet, but it was a double knit one, so there was actually 2 threads of yarn. I think you're supposed to knit directly from the blank. Am I correct? Because trying to unravel them and cake them up into cakes was quite the ordeal. And I'll put in a video clip or mash together some video clips of what we attempted to do. And then one of the things we do every year on our retreat is we have a snatch and grab. So anybody who wants to participate, it's totally voluntary. They purchase a skein of yarn that's somewhere between $20 and $30, or $20 and $25, something like that. But it's a nice skein of yarn, and you bring it to the retreat, and it gets put into a brown paper bag. And then everybody draws a number, and it's kind of like, you know, the white elephant game, or the you know, one of those grab baggy type games where you pick a number, you pick a bag, and then this is the next number that goes. If they really like the yarn you have, they can steal your yarn, and then they have to go back and get another bag. But the skein of yarn can only be stolen 3 times. So we had quite a lot of stealing, and of course stealing always makes the game much more fun. But I walked away this year with a skein of dancing leaf yarn, which I'm super excited about. It's their boogie base. It's 100% merino superwash. It's a bulky weight yarn. But look at those blues and purples. So I'm thinking it's, let me see, it is bulky weight. What's the yardage? 102 yards. So I'm thinking this might be a nice bulky hat. Or maybe a cowl. I don't know. Is that enough yardage for a cowl? I don't know, but definitely a hat. So I'm thinking this might be a bulky weight hat. So I'm very pleased with my snatch and grab. We brought in colorway yarn. And she's a local yarn dyer in that area. Unfortunately, Friday was horrible, horrible weather. It was supposed to be, you know, torrential rains, what's it called, flash flooding type of rain. So we had to cancel the trips to the two different local yarn shops that we were going to head to. And we didn't want them to be open just for us. And then, you know, a lot of folks just didn't feel like they wanted to drive in that kind of rain. So Saturday was a big hit. So colorway, it's called Colorway Fiber Arts. And she created a colorway specifically for our retreat. And this is the color that she came up with, which we thought was beautiful. The colorway is called Sips and Knits, since it's the Columbia Sip and Knit group. So I had to purchase one. This is on her sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards. And then I purchased a second one. This is called Liminal Spaces, again on her sock base. After our retreat, I figured I was probably done with yarn shopping for a while. Said no knitter ever. My girlfriend Kit, we were talking about the Frederick Fiber Festival that happens once a year. It's a fairly new festival. It's a smaller one. It was only 3 barns at the fairgrounds, but it was a nice one. And so it was the weekend after our retreat. So we had Rhinebeck one weekend, and then 2 weekends later we had our retreat, and then the following weekend we had the Frederick Fiber Festival. So yeah, did a little bit of yarn buying. At the Frederick Fiber Festival, I did manage to get a skein of Yarn Hero. This was one of their mill-ends, but I thought I pulled out some of my Frederick Farm skeins, and I thought that they would go nicely together in creating some sort of a shawl. So there's the Yarn Hero that I purchased, and then these other 5 are Frederick's, and I think I have one more in my stash. I've got to take another look. But I was thinking of Andrea Mowry just put out another shawl pattern similar to, why can't I think of it now? Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Anyway, I know that the shawl pattern that she just put out uses 6 skeins of Dream Cycle. So I was thinking, since I already had these skeins of Frederick Farm in my stash, and I know, I'm positive I have another one in there somewhere, but I think the pattern calls for 6. And when I saw the purples in this Yarn Hero, I thought they would go really, really well. So I'm excited to get that pattern and start that. So this is a future project. And then as we were walking around, I came across another new dyer, I think she was new to dyeing and obviously new to me. And it was called the Crochet Cove. And look at these colors. So this is a DK base, a DK superwash, upside down. Comfy DK, she calls it. It's 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon, 246 yards. She calls this colorway All Hallows Eve. So I'm thinking this might be another pair of DK socks. So I have not done DK socks yet. So does anybody know, is one skein of DK, 240 yards approximately, is one skein enough to make a pair of DK weight socks? Or do I need to think about maybe dyeing up a coordinating color to do toes, heels, and cuffs? Or is one skein enough to do a whole sock? If you have done DK socks before, please let me know. I haven't done any pattern searching yet, but I thought these would make a neat pair of comfy thick socks for the winter. That wasn't enough for me. while we were at the Frederick Fiber Festival, one of the booths was Knit Locally, which is actually a local yarn shop near where we do our retreat every year. And this was actually one of the yarn shops we were supposed to go to on Friday, but like I said, the weather was not cooperating. So I went over and said hello to Peggy, and we talked, and I took a look at what she had out and what she had. And at the very end of her table, she had some yarn, just beautiful, beautiful colors. And the dyer is no longer dyeing. The company, I don't know what happened. They shut down or whatever. So they had a whole bunch of their yarn that they were selling at like almost half price. And yeah, I couldn't resist. So the yarn is called Titus. 10 years of Ba Ram Yu. I'm not sure which is the name of the yarn or which is the name of the company. I'm thinking maybe the company is Ba Ram Yu and Titus is the yarn base. But it is 70% British wool, 30% British alpaca, 100% British spun and dyed in Yorkshire. So it's a blend of 50% Wensleydale long wool, which I've never worked with before, 20% Blueface Leicester, which I have worked with before, and 30% British alpaca. It's a fingering weight. It's 350 yards. And it was beautiful, beautiful colors. And I bought a sweater's worth in teal, which I'm thinking might be, oh, what's the name of that pattern? The honey sweater by Andrea Mowry. Is that knit in a fingering weight? Anyway, I thought that would be a pretty, pretty sweater. And I couldn't stop there. They had a gorgeous, gorgeous Merlot color. And I bought a sweater's quantity of that too. But these are my colors. So I have two sweaters that hopefully will be knit up sometime. Because, I think Titus Bantam, I'm trying to see the difference here. And so this has Titus Bantam on it, and this has Titus E-Cup. But they are the same base. So I don't know if that's the colorway name, or they each have lot. This one says lot Normanton, and this has not lot Morley. So I'm not sure if lot is like really like what we think of in the US as lot numbers, or if that's really the colorways that they're using for these yarns. But anyway, beautiful. So lately I've really been on a sweater kick for knitting. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this is not the first sweater I've knit, but this is the first sweater I have knit for myself in a number of years. And I think, actually I don't think, it's because I was much heavier. And in order for me to make a sweater at my previous size, it would have been a small fortune for me. And I'm, a single person living on a teacher's salary, and it just wasn't doable. But I have lost approximately 135 pounds so far. I'm still working on it. It is, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. But this is the first sweater I have knit for myself in a number of years. So I have been on a sweater buying kick, and I have a plethora of patterns now that I'm dying to get on the needles. So with that in mind, I've been taking another look at my stash. So I have a couple of ideas lined up for some sweaters. And so these are what I'm thinking of as future project plans. So I went through my stash and I have a bunch of Malabrigo Rios yarn, and I found some that went together. And so I knitted up a swatch, and this is what I'm planning for the Comfy Fade Cardigan by Andrea Mowry. So it's starting up here with Hollyhock, and it's working its way down. I don't know if the striping is exactly as called for in the pattern, but I'm thinking these went well together. And for those of you that didn't know how to use those stitch holder things that I was showing in the I can't speak today, in the goodie bag that I made for my knitters, the folks that went on the retreat, that's what these strings are for. You actually attach, there's a hole here, and of course I don't have anything on the, yes I do have, I don't have needles around me, but you put the end on the needle, kind of like, do you remember those, it's going to be extremely politically incorrect, but they were called those Chinese finger devices where you would, you put your fingers in, when you tried to pull them apart, the weaving would stretch so you couldn't really get your fingers out. It's that same concept with these things. You put the needle tip, you really dig it into the hole that's in the middle of this piping type of thing. I don't know what you would call it. And then you can just pull your needle through, and this goes right along with it. And then you can use it as a stitch holder for your sleeves. If you want to try on a sweater and your cable is not long enough, you can connect one end to one of the needles and just slide it along until the opening is large enough for you to get over your head, and you could try on your sweater to see where it is. So these were neat. So that's one idea that I'm thinking of as a future purchase from yarn for my stash. And I have enough yarn to do the Comfy Fade, oh my God, I cannot speak tonight. The Comfort Fade Cardigan by Andrea Mowry. And I'm sure you guys have all seen this. It's been all over the internet and Instagram. So I'm looking forward to casting that on. And then the second set of yarns that I found that sort of went together is a mix of Shursty Cat and Malabrigo. And I had 4 skeins of this gorgeous, gorgeous greeny blue color for Malabrigo that was supposed to be for a shawl, but the shawl got frogged because the pattern, it was a free pattern and you get what you pay for. But I found these colors. So this is Shursty Cat up here. And there's 2 different colors of Shursty Cat in here. And then it goes down into Malabrigos. And I thought those just blended. So, I mean, there's several different colors in here, and they just blended so well that you almost really can't see the striping. When it goes from one to another, it almost looks like a planned gradient. So I don't know what sweater this is going to be. Maybe the Weekender, but I don't know. The problem with that is I only have 1 skein of each of the Shursty Cats. And the Weekender is made from the bottom up, and I've never done a bottom up sweater. I've always done top down. So I don't know how to figure out when to stop the green in order to because I really want the lighter color up around my face. And I really want the darker color at the bottom. And so I don't know how to figure that out in doing that with the weekend cardigan, since it starts from the bottom up. So if anybody has any ideas of either how to figure that out, or maybe a different sweater pattern, or maybe a different cardigan pattern, I don't know. anyway, I'd really like to get that one on because I really like these colors. So as you could see, I did not cut the yarns because I don't know if I'm going to need. Next item I'm thinking of casting on. I know I have all these grand ideas of casting on. I don't know when I'm going to do this. I'm a school teacher after all. Is the Pearl Soho half and half triangle wrap. And I actually bought some linen quill. And I got it in purples. And I really like that dark purple because it's kind of got these little flecks in it. And then this lighter purple. Let me see, what are the colors called? Dark Iris and Purple Smoke. So I thought these would be nice together. Red really would have been more my color, but I wasn't, so online I really wasn't sure how the red was looking because it looked a little more orangey to me, and that's not me. But I really did like this purple. So that's another one I'm hoping to cast on. Maybe it'll be a New Year's cast on. But it's definitely, actually, this should probably be a now cast on because I could just sit and garter stitch while I'm watching all my holiday shows. But I need to finish what I have on the needles first. So that is it for my stash enhancing expeditions. I think this is it for this episode. So thank you so much. If you've stuck around this long, please, if you've enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Leave it, give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down. Let me know what you would like to see in future episodes. I think we are done for the day. It is way past the witching hour, and I need to get to bed. So thank you so much. If you've stuck around this long, thank you to those of you who have returned, those of you who have sent me emails or Instagram messages, wondering what happened after only two short episodes, but only 2 episodes of the show. So thank you, Gabby, for, inquiring at the retreat as to, when is my next show coming out. I think you gave me the push that I needed to get this 3rd episode out and to keep it going. So I appreciate that. So thank you, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. Yes, it is. I don't think I said it is after Thanksgiving. It is Saturday after Thanksgiving. I hope you all had time with your family. I hope you all had time to rest and relax, and that you're all ready to start the craziness of the holiday season. Anyway, mwah, mwah. I love you guys. Ciao, ciao. I'll see you probably during Vlogmas.